everybody, welcome back to Lending Leadership. I get to be the host today. I'm Rach, and we've got Robert Fillyaw here. Robert, how are you, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm excited to dive in here. Listen, I have not read the questions in advance, so away we go.
You know, I think there's two kinds of people in this world. People who want to be overly prepared. Give me the questions. I need to see everything first. And I'm kind of like you too. I'm like, let's just roll.
Seat of our pants. Let's see where we end up.
Yes. Flying by the seat of our pants. So, okay, obviously this is a show about leadership for mortgage loan officers, but I think a lot of what we talk about applies to really anyone in the leadership space. What do you think that people misunderstand or maybe misconstrue about leadership, being in the position that you're in and leading a team, leading a company? Is there a common misconception that you would say?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, to your point that this is kind of a universal topic that can really apply to any business or, any situation, is because leadership is universal, right? I think where people mess it up is they get leadership confused with management, right?
Ooh.
And that's where you management is for process. It is for the way something is done. It has nothing to do with people. You lead people, you manage processes. And I think people get that mixed up a lot of times, right? The other thing that I think when we talk about leadership is a lot of people tend to miss the mark in the spirit of leadership. Leadership should be servant leadership. Like the best leaders that I've ever experienced and the leader that I try to be is by serving the other people, taking care of those in your charge, and really leading them through difficult or troubling situations, being that example. But ultimately, it comes down to being there to serve them and take care of them. And I think when you look at people who are trying to manage people, they miss that piece of it. And it's more of like a self-serving, do what I say because I said, instead of the leadership style, which is we're going to do this because this is going to be best for you, and here's going to be the end result that you benefit from. I really think that's a differentiation in mindset between the two styles, and where people tend to get it kind of wrong.
Yeah.
You have to be. I think when we look around it's almost an oxymoron to say, right? Because leaders tend to be a little bit stronger personality, a little bit take charge more from the front, but some of the best leaders are also very humble in when you really dig down to it. They're going to take charge, they're going to lead, they're going to seem like your type A's, but they're also super humble to get their self out of the way to really take care of and serve those people that they're working with.
Yeah, that is very introspective. I mean, I absolutely love that answer. I'm curious, were you always this clear on the difference between an
Absolutely not. No. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, leadership is a habit. It's a trait, right? It's like anything else. It's a learned behavior, and no one starts off strong. You develop into a leader over time. And the things that you miss, the weaknesses that you have, are the things that help you grow and learn, and hopefully become strengths in the future. But this isn't you don't just come out of the gate saying, oh, this is how I'm going to lead. Now, there are I do believe there's some natural tendencies of leaders, right? There's some of it is nature, not all nurture, right? If we get to that conversation, but a lot of leadership is nurture. It's learned. So you can look at a DISC chart or any of the Briggs-Meyer, any of those kind of situations out there, and you can see some normalized traits amongst leaders. But the actual leadership, the skills, the style, the implementation of it, the knowledge of it, the wrapping your arms around it, and really the building of your style, that's all learned behavior. It comes over time in situations. That's why that's where experience really comes into play, because the more experience is the more opportunity that you've had to lead, the stronger of a leader that you're going to have the opportunity to be, right? That's why as we kind of sew into people and work to develop them and and bring them, to whatever their goals in life are, you have to give them the opportunities. You have kids, I have kids, I have 14-year-old twins. Like we're doing that now, right? Like you give them opportunities to take leadership, right? To see how they're going to step up, to see what decisions do they make, and then that gains experience and they learn from that, and it's all just a compounding effect. Kind of went off a little tangent
No,
there, but yeah.
that was good.
So there, I mean, I innately believe that there are a few, standard kind of traits you see in leaders, but 90% of leadership is learned.
I think a lot of people would be happy to hear that, surprised to hear that, because so many times, you see in children, you see those kids who step out of the comfort zone. They're the loud ones. They're the strong ones. Oh, there's a future leader right there. But that is probably a strong misconception. And I think a lot of people, maybe they have that in their heart and they want to do that, but they think, oh, that's not me. I could never step out in that way. But I would agree. I think leadership takes a lot. You have to be very, very introspective. You have to be very focused on your flaws and be open to hearing other people's opinions sometimes that are hard to take on when you're giving ideas a lot, right? To take it on and to hear constructive criticism is the word I'm looking for yourself. I heard a great quote, and I'm curious what you think about this. I just sent this out to a couple friends yesterday. It says, "The degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth they can accept about themselves without running away."
I love that. I think that's very, very accurate. I was just thinking as we're talking about this, like to be a strong leader, you have to be really vulnerable, right? Like you have to, be willing to take the criticism, be willing to, take the feedback, be challenged, right? And I think that's why some people shy away from it, because it's not easy. And you're gonna mess it up. There's gonna be times when you're wrong. You're gonna muff something, and that's difficult. It's what's that old cliche? Like if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Like there's 100 of them out there, right?
Yeah.
But that's really what it comes down to, is just being open to being really raw and transparent and vulnerable, and putting those that you're trying to lead ahead of you. I really believe that if you do that, then the results follow. And I've seen it through my career. It's been pretty rewarding,
And you mentioned you're a parent, twin 14-year-olds. It is the same thing. We're parents too, and mentors to those in our company, or parents to our own family. And if that doesn't make you stronger, parenting teenagers, I don't know what else does. And I think it goes with anything. I'd heard someone say the other day, yeah, parenting is really hard when you're doing it right. Leadership is
Yeah.
hard when you're doing it right. Obviously
Yeah.
we can take time and invest in ourselves, but that's the honest truth of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all seen, like, I can think of examples. I just saw one over the holidays, right, where the parenting not done right, because it's very easy to become complacent, and like parenting right, leadership right, like any of that it's constant instantaneous correction or direction, right? So we've talked about this a little bit. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. That is what built the foundation for a lot of my leadership, and that was one of the things that we discussed always. It's constant instantaneous correction, and when you do that, then it raises everyone to a level to where you're going to do the right things. The expectation is set. My children know that there's a level of expectation, and that if they don't meet that, there's going to be correction. That is more difficult, more time consuming, more pick something, right? Any aspect of it, it takes more to do that than to not. So I think, you can see the results. But yeah, it's more of a challenge to be a leader.
Well, I do think that children, and I think that anyone that you are mentoring, anyone that you're leading, they do want those boundaries. They do want those guardrails. They do want to know, okay, it's an if-then situation. If I do this, what's the result going to be? Where's the guardrail? What's going to keep me on track? So just to say you're a laissez-faire, hands-off leader, or hands-off parent, I mean, that's to each their own, but I feel like people really do want that guidance to know, okay, where do I stand with this person? You can't achieve greatness when you don't know what the steps are, when you don't know how to fall in line. I'm sure the military. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question. I'm sure that really instilled that level of value in you.
It does. I mean, leadership is at the core of serving in any branch of the military. I happen to uh, have the honor and privilege to be a Marine, which is the best branch for anyone out there wondering, but it's present in all of it, right? So yeah, I mean, that's really where the foundation. Listen, you go to military service as really a teenager. I think I was 19.
Yeah.
And just kind of get transformed, and that builds kind of a foundation to move forward with. So um, everything is an experience, and every experience builds and molds who you are as a person, for the better or the worse. So if you're out there, if you believe this, if we're talking about this, and leadership is learned, 90% learned behaviors and traits, and just know that every decision that you make, every challenge that you face, every obstacle is also an opportunity, and it's going to define and reshape and build how you handle that the next time, or how you approach something differently maybe next time. So the more opportunity you get, the more experience you have, the stronger leader you're going to become.
Who are some of the leaders that you follow? That really, obviously, the military and our experiences and our upbringing. Are we allowed to say? You want to go there?
I mean, yeah, we can go there. So some of the leaders that I follow, um, Carl White. We've talked about Carl a lot of times. Probably one of the strongest leaders in our industry. And when you look at Carl, what I love about not just what he says and what he brings to the table, but he's a guy that practices what he preaches. You know what I mean? Like if he's going to tell you, hey, you should do ABC, he's doing ABC. And that's why he's telling you to do it that way, or suggesting that you do it that way. So, that's a really strong indication to me of leadership, is if like the do as I say, not as I do leaders. That is not my style. I don't think that gets you a long ways, right? So Carl White's definitely one of them, just because of whatever he's preaching, he's practicing,
Yeah.
and that's really strong.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
who are some of yours?
well, gosh, there's so many. I mean, I follow a lot of, I guess, more preachers and religious. That's kind
Okay,
of that's kind of my thing. That's what fills my cup. Um, I love Priscilla Shire, and don't laugh, but
I'm not
I
laughing.
love
I'm not
Candace
laughing.
Cameron Bure. I love her. I love everything
Okay.
she brings to the table. Someone that's really, really well rounded. But I wanna back up on something you just said, because I see a lot of people, on Instagram, on Facebook, in this world where everything is so instantaneous now, where you see a lot of coaches. I see coaching programs pop up all over the place, whether it's public speaking
Mhm.
coaches or sales coaches, or whoever it may be. But then sometimes, not all the time, but if you do a little digging, they are great salespeople, but they actually
Right.
haven't been in the trenches. Do you think that it's okay to be a great salesperson and be able to lead people without being in the trenches? Or is it a must to have been in the shoes of the people that you are trying to direct and lead?
Well, I think that really is an individual choice. You know what I mean? For me, the old saying is those that can't do teach, right? So I do think that there is some aspect of being able to coach and being able to lead, that will bring value and help people, level up their game in whatever aspect of it is. That doesn't necessarily mean that they did it, or they were in the trenches,
Mhm.
right? I mean, if let's look at professional sports, right? You look at hitting coaches, or, quarterback coaches, right? Like, I don't know who Tom Brady's quarterback coach was, but he had one, and he wasn't a multi-winning Super Bowl quarterback, the GOAT of quarterbacks, right? He knew the fundamental, and had the accountability to teach them. So I don't think that it's a one for one transfer. I think that you absolutely can can coach and, lead and help develop people without having been in the trenches. But there has to be results, right? There are some of those coaches out there that are a lot of fluff and not results. And that's, we could say that about anything, right? There's a lot of overpromise, never deliver, as Dave Holland would say, in our industry. That comes with companies that you talk to, that comes with coaching. So, what I always say, this is a good rule of thumb for whatever you're trying. If you're ever trying to make a decision, where should I work? Where should I coach with? Should I do this? Should I do that? Talk to past people, right? Talk to people that are in that coaching platform now and see what their results have been. Talk to people that are at that company now. Look at, have a clear vision and goal of where you want to take your business, right? Where is it now and where do you want to take it? And look in whatever you're looking to implement and say, are there people that are doing what I'm looking to implement that have a business at the level that I'm trying to go? Because if someone else has done it using those methods, or, pairing with whoever, or partnering with whoever, then the path forward for you to do it is much easier. There, if you look at let's use a company, for example. If you look at a company and, you're at $20 million of production and you want to go to 60, and they don't have any $60 million producers of that company right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you get there? Can you, push through and figure it out and make the way? Probably. Is it going to be a hell of a lot harder than if you align with a company that has 10 stories where they've taken someone from 20 to 60 million? Yeah, it's going to be a lot harder because it's kind of a wash, rinse, repeat, right? So I would challenge anyone out there, like anytime you're looking at a coaching, making a company switch, anything, talk to past clients. This is why we lean into reviews as we buy products, right? It's sometimes it's funny to me that, we will spend hours looking at Amazon reviews before we buy a $10 whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but then we're going to invest thousands of dollars in coaching without having conversations with people that are actually in the coaching platform. It's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy. And I mean, I think that applies to a lot of different things. When we want that instant gratification, we want to check the box and say, I did it, I'm doing it, so that means I'm going to get the results. It doesn't always work like that. But yeah, I will scour Amazon reviews and look for, the star, the number of reviews. But you're right. When it comes to something that is bigger picture, more important, are we putting in that due diligence? That's a great question to ask yourself, folks who are listening. Gosh, so much to unpack there. I want to go back to, because I love that you brought up the fact that even Tom Brady, best quarterback of all time. I'm an Eagles girl, but I'll say it. Best quarterback of all time. We all know.
Can't argue it.
We know. Yeah. But even he had to have a coach. I think that's kind of an aha moment. Yeah, that was a great analogy there. Let's focus a little bit and switch gears just a little bit about, your past and things that have brought you to the position that you're in now. You've had a long career in mortgage. You mentioned military, family. What would you say is the biggest driver in your life right now, that is propelling you to, number one, to have made this change and to have been part of the collaboration to start this awesome establishment and new company. And then going forward, what propels you? What pushes you?
Yeah, I would say, that's what's your why, right? And that's a great question for everyone out there. If you don't know what your why is, then that's something you should probably spend a little bit of time thinking about and kind of developing. So, this of course changes over the course of time, right? So it's not a stagnant answer. Right now my why is kind of two pieces. Number one, it's my family, and it's about providing a legacy for them. My hope is that one day my kids enter this business and can learn the ropes and come up through the ranks, and maybe ultimately be involved in running it and managing it. And it's funny, Are you watching Landman? I watched Landman last night. The newest episode. You're not watching
I gotta
Landman?
write that one down.
And yeah, it's a good show. So the episode that I was watching last night, I'm trying to catch up a little bit, but this guy owns an oil company and he had a heart attack and he's in bed, and Jerry Jones is in there bedside in the hospital talking to this guy, talking about all the legacy that he's built. But the thing that he's most proud of is he brought his kids into the business with him, and then he got to work with his family every day, day in and day out.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, when you come to the end of your road, maybe your coworkers are there, your family's there, but he got to blend both of them together into one. And like, that's really cool. Like my why is, I could see that as a vision. And this partnership enables that more so than the opportunities I had previously. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So family's a piece of it. Maybe the kids come in the business, that's going to be up to them, but I would love that. It's also the providing for them and the work-life balance, having the time freedom to be present with them. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, Dave, Tom, and I talk about this all the time. There's a severe lack of leadership in our industry, and people that have just a heart and a desire to help loan officers grow and to really build a company built for loan officers to thrive. When you look at the landscape of mortgage companies out there, I'm biased, but we're really trying to build something that's different than the status quo that's out there, that has an extreme amount of leadership and ownership and very hands-on and very culture forward, and just a place where loan officers that want to just grow their business can come and thrive. And that's something I'm very passionate about and that fuels us every day. Like every day we're looking at what can we do to get better? What do we need to do to make this the best damn mortgage company that's ever existed? And I would make a bold statement that says the other mortgage company owners out there, they don't have that same vision and thought currently. It's not a knock on them. It's just it's a little bit more status quo. They don't have the drive to build it, to develop it, they don't attack it every day like we do, with just a relentless pursuit of that single vision and goal, which is to build the best damn mortgage company that's ever existed.
And why do you think that is, that there is a lack of leadership in the mortgage space? We had just said, there's tons of coaches out there. There's sales coaches, there's public speaking coaches. Why is it in this little niche that we live in called the mortgage industry? Why is there a lack of leadership when there are more resources, I would venture to say, than ever before in history? More connection, more connectivity, more tech. So what are they missing?
I think some of those resources, take away from the leadership. It creates distance. Sometimes the tech is counterintuitive to the actual interpersonal connections and the leadership that you develop through there, right? Like some of it's bureaucracy, some of it is risk, some of it's laziness, right? Some of it is, I think the problem that a lot of mortgage companies face, and it's going to be a challenge that we're going to face, that we're going to have to tackle, right, is it's not easy. Leadership's never easy, but it's not as challenging on a smaller scale. So the challenge becomes, as you scale to size, how do you keep that level of leadership? Because now you have to start bringing other people in, right? Like if you're a single owner, and this is something that I think, makes Dave, Tom, and I a little bit different, is because we're so just unified in our vision, in our goal, in the way that we approach things, in our leadership levels, and just in so many facets of it. But in a lot of places you look and say, okay, it's a single owner entity, and now you want to scale. Well, now maybe you have to bring in some mid-tier managers who aren't as strong of a leader or don't have the same passion or the heart. Right now you have an employee who maybe isn't on the same level, right? So I think that's one of the unique perspectives with us, is coming together. Now you have three owners that give us more capacity to scale. But at some point we're going to hit the same challenge, right? Like, and I think that's where you have to make tough decisions, and you have to set the standard really high in who you entrust with the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And, as we go through hiring and adding leadership positions, and like, it's an exhaustive, extensive vetting process. And like, the bar is really high to join this club, right? In that leadership, because we know that we're turning over some level of that. And we expect the results that only come with exceptional people.
Get them on the bus.
Did that answer your question? Did I get a little off tangent
No,
there?
you did it. No, this is what I want. I want this real conversation because, a lot of companies say, oh, well, we don't just hire anyone. And again, this doesn't mean just mortgage companies. That's everyone across the board in a leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
But when push comes to shove, all of those things that I think you mentioned before, time, maybe a little bit of complacency, maybe just, I don't want to say greed, or, good things and bad things can get in the way, but to be uber focused on what your mission and goal is. And I do think that there is a very unique dynamic going on here, because there are 3 of you in the leadership position, 3 of you at the helm. You don't see that in many companies. So, sometimes you have.
Let's be real. You need someone to call you on your crap sometimes.
Thank you.
Right. And when if you're the end all be all, like, that doesn't normally exist. Right. So we keep each other in check and accountable. Right. There's times where I'll be totally in love. We just had a situation. I was totally wrong about something. Right. And Tom and Dave kept me in check on it. Yeah. Like, if I would have been on my own, then that would have been a massive mistake that got made and implemented that we avoided because of the 3 of us as a sounding board together. I do think that that's a really, as you look around, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, the mortgage companies that are out there that I know, I can't think of one that's got a similar situation, a similar setup with 3 dynamic, strong leaders that are working collectively and collaboratively at the top. I think it makes a difference and kind of sets us apart.
Well, I mean, if you look at historically, you look at how this country was founded too, not to put HMA Mortgage on the same level as, the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. government, but there's a reason that our great country works. It's because of those checks and balances. And I would agree with that, making sure that you surround yourself with incredible people who are going to remind you of your goals, remind you of the reason that you're here to begin with, and call you out when you make a bad decision. It happens. We're human.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That accountability is so important. And that's where the vulnerability comes back in,
Mm-hmm. Well, wrapping up, normally I like to ask a ridiculous question like, Robert, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Yeah.
But I think I've heard that before. You can just tell them real quick. Come on.
I mean, it's either Folsom Prison or Sweet Child of Mine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Depending on the mood, right? Yep. Depends on where you're at.
I think everyone listening that you absolutely, yes, this leadership discussion has been wonderful, but you tell a lot about a person by the karaoke song they sing. So just tuck that away. It is a great piece of leadership advice. Have your go-to karaoke song. No, but in all seriousness, what's one piece of advice looking back that you wish you had heard earlier in your career, Robert? Is there anything that stands out that maybe you've heard it recently, or maybe you heard it 5 years ago that I don't believe in coincidences. I think we hear things when we need to hear them in life, but what's something that maybe has stuck with you that you wish you would have heard, your younger Robert self would have heard?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite sayings. Don't seek advice, or no, wait, don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't seek advice. And I think all too often we do that, right? We let people in our space, in our head, with whatever negativity that really have no business like sewing into us. So just be really careful of who you take criticism from. Everybody has something to say about everything, right?
Sure do.
And usually the stronger path that you're on, the more clear and concise that you are, the more drive that you have, the more attacks that you're gonna have come at you, right? So just be really, really, cognizant and careful of who you let in, who you take criticism from, and who you seek advice from. I think that's probably the biggest one. I'd look back and people that gave me advice or kept me from going for things or trying things that I should have never listened to.
That's great advice. That's something that I tell my kids all the time, and I hope it's sinking in. But if that's the first time anyone's heard that, I really feel like that maybe they needed a reminder to hear that. That really is a solid piece of advice. I love that. Well, thank you, my friend. We're wrapping up our time here today. Lots of great nuggets. And as always, friends, make sure you like and subscribe our podcast here. We've got lots of great ideas coming at you in this new year. And thanks for taking some time out and spending your time with us. Like, subscribe. See you next time.
Smash that like button. Thanks, guys.